Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Hello, and welcome to the special ASMR version of Hardcore Marketing.
I feel like I have to do something now.
Yes, please tap. Welcome. I tried shaking my iced coffee and nothing happened.
Oh, here's a good one. An Apple product.
Apple product. And now the pen click. All right. Now that you're all eagerly paying attention and hopefully not too turned on, let's begin this podcast. I can't wait to introduce our guest to you today. She's fun, and we're going to have a lot of fun on this. And you know what? Let me tell you all about her. She is an absolute badass. She's a seasoned marketing leader and thought leader, a story builder. Several people have called her a 1 in a million marketer. And there's a common occurrence here. Content never sleeps, and neither does she. And she's worn many hats in this content world. Content marketing strategist, specialist. She's created it. She's planned it, executed, even used it on more of the sales side and the account side. The Director of Growth for Loop and Tie, Bridget Poetker. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. You make me sound a lot better than I am, but I guess, if it's out there, it's out there. So those reviews, they're real.
They're real. They're totally real. And you're here and you're chatting with me. Like, how did we even get you to even come on the show? This is so cool. So what I want to do is I'm going to stop talking and stop clicking my pen. And I need to pass you this thing. It's heavy, though. At least to me it is. Okay. All right. Take Thor's hammer. You got it? Go ahead. Grab
Yep,
it.
I got it. We're good.
Jeez.
I'm quick.
Yeah, quick working out, man. Thor's hammer is light to you. I mean, I'm just like weighted down and you just kind of grab the thing. 2 hands, though, I will say. That was a good cautious move. So
I played softball, so you always have to use 2 hands.
See, that's it. See, I was soccer, so my arms are just like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah, I can't use my feet.
Yeah, exactly. So together we're like an actual human.
One person.
Yeah. One person, yeah. So take Thor's hammer with that crazy softball swing. Smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Yeah. I'm kind of going to go like big and broad, but I think mostly because as you were chatting about like my experience, like it is broad. And that was on purpose, right? Like I started my career doing kind of like one specific thing in content and got into the tech scene and content and SEO, and then have kind of like tried to round out my experience just so, when I do get into those VP, CMO, like level jobs, I can say I've been there, done that, and can really empathize, I think, with people that are working with me on my team. All that to say, my biggest myth is that, or that we're busting, is that marketing is really hard. It's not just hard, that it's complicated, I think is more specific. It's definitely layered. It's definitely integrated, but I would never call marketing complicated. And I feel like as marketers, there's a few reasons why we've made it complicated, or at least like on the outside have made it complicated. One is for like job security, right? We're like, no, not everybody can do marketing, which I understand. It's like similar to the stock market or insurance, or like, we don't really want everybody to understand it so that we have like a special sauce. I think too, like we've done that so that we can sell marketing software. There's marketing software for everything now. And that's because we've created all of these categories for MarTech software and all of these things. And you really think long and hard about, a lot of different new categories, like people are talking about not even categories of software, but like new phenomena in marketing and SaaS specifically, like dark social. Like, is that really just really good brand marketing? And like, technically, isn't that word of mouth? Like, you can kind of always like breadcrumb them back to like the 5 main things, like the 5 main channels of like driving acquisition. So I think by complicating the like channels and all of that stuff and the results, like we've complicated like every process to get there too. And it's become, especially in the growth and demand gen, it's so tech stack heavy and it becomes like, I don't know, I just tell my friends all the time that I just beat boop at my computer for 8 hours and I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, like
That's how I
what did we
feel.
even do today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very passionate about like obviously my title is director of growth, but obviously I've gotten there by way of content, and brand and strategy and things like that versus traditionally like, performance marketing or demand gen. And I'm definitely trying to infuse that like layer of creativity that like you can't really and like those are the pieces that like creativity pieces that job security for me versus making it like complicated and complex. Um, Good news is I have steps that have to uncomplicate it.
Okay, well,
Um,
hold up. This is we're definitely going to get into that, but let's just talk about this myth for a second. Uh, Job security, marketing software. And I love that you're just smashing this because I feel like somewhere some marketing software is putting a hit out on you, right?
oh yeah,
They're saying
there's multiple, I'm sure.
like she's on to us, like we have to get out of here, right?
Yeah, no, I think too. Like I I wanted to bust this myth specifically because I think it keeps people from wanting to move into marketing or, those small founding teams that have 5 people. Marketing is a really daunting task, whether we like say it's complicated or not. And like, I would rather be on the positive side of that conversation versus like the fear mongering side. Like, I'm here to empower people to do marketing and help them do marketing, not, well, take all the work for myself. Like, that's the worst thing I could do, you know?
And I love that you called out that sort of insidious nature of marketers selling software to marketers.
Oh, yeah.
It seems to be like a particular Achilles heel because who doesn't want to buy another tech that can magically solve our solutions? I remember back in the day, I was a junior marketer and it was this like, it was clickable. I don't know if it's still that or it's changed or whatnot, but back in the day, little junior marketing Casey day, it appeared to just solve all of our PPC woes. And it was very good UI. Like it looked pretty.
Yeah, I
Like it
love
just looked
that.
like it's just gonna, you just plug it
You
into your AdWords and it's just going to analyze and it's going to make everything green, and then you plug it in and you realize we don't know how to use this.
yeah,
And then we end up hiring the sales rep that sold us Clickable to be a consultant for us on the side to help us set it up and
love that.
actually use it. And it was him really that was the one that helped us learn the things we need to learn in order to make. We did have inefficiencies,
Right,
but it wasn't like the app was going to be able to say, well, your call to action's weak here because of X, Y, and Z. It's just like, no,
right,
this campaign
right.
is shit. Like this isn't working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's so much of it that like come back to the tenets of marketing of like, you're exactly right. Like the tool doesn't work if you don't have the foundation built for the tool.
Yeah.
And honestly, like a lot of that comes down to like really great copywriting, really good creative, really solid like concepts. Do you have strong value props? Are you consistently saying the same things over and over? Um, so it's more about that kind of stuff that is so teachable to people. And the tools, like I always think like in general in work life, like culture, whatever, the soft skills are the things that we really should focus on. The hard skills, the tooling, that stuff changes so much anyway. Like I would be in trouble if I like poured all of my time into, you know, a timely example, but like a universal analytics. I'm pretty well versed in universal analytics. Now we're changing to GA4 and we had to hire an outside agency to
Yeah.
do the like migration because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, but I'm not, that's like not on me. It's also just like, if you get into marketing, you have to understand that you're going to be using different tools like every 2 years. Like that's just how it goes.
Right.
So why would and I think I've been in that very small MarTech to MarTech space. It's great because it's you know, people are open to new ways of doing things, and there's a huge community there. Like, it's very small. We all know each other. We all know who's legit. We all know who's not. Like, it's it's great from that perspective, and it's really nice as a marketer to be selling to marketers because I have those issues. So like the copywriting is like second nature, right? Like those
Yeah.
campaign ideas I just understand because I have those problems. So the value props are like just write themselves. But I don't know that, you know, in with COVID and in this like tech layoff recession time and all that stuff, like that's probably one of those like little, you know, sectors that's going to take a big hit is because marketing budgets are going away. And you can't just like handshake deal these tech spec. Like if you're a customer of ours, we'll be a customer of yours. It's like, who's that helping though? Like, are you actually like, like finding marketing and sales success, or do you
Right.
just know a lot of people in your network? Like,
Right.
and like, are they going to churn next year? And I think that's another thing that I could go on a whole other podcast rant about, just like the amount of companies that don't really think about customer success and churn.
All right. Well, we'll definitely come back to customer
Mhm.
success and churn because that's definitely a thing. But like circling on that idea of it not being complicated, daunting maybe, but not complicated. If it's not complicated, would you call it simple?
I don't know if simple is the right word either. Maybe like honestly, like layered, like a cake.
Mm.
Like, you know, baking a cake and following the instructions is not difficult, but there is an order. It's not like cooking where you're like just throwing things in a pan. Like marketing is way more like baking than it is about cooking until you like build all the layers and then maybe you decorate the cake and you can do whatever the fuck you want. But until you get there, and my sister would love. I have a twin sister and she's a baker, so shout out to Annie.
Shout out. What's up?
So we're just bringing it all together.
But
But
seriously, I love this analogy because you're right. The layers are it's just like a layer. Now
yeah, and
you
you
can
can
overly
decide.
complicate the layers
Yeah,
prematurely. I remember when I got married, it was like, okay, what kind of cream do you want in between the layers? And you're like, well, let's just make it all buttercream. Like, let's
right.
just it tastes good. Let's do that. But you can have one layer be raspberry and
Yep.
one layer can be buttercream and the next layer can be something else. And it's like it almost like that's the MarTech and other things coming in saying like, oh, let's complicate, let's or like my daughter just got a giant bag of Sour Patch Kid, and she's like, let's make cookies out of these, and I'm like, what would that even look like? But like,
Amazing.
it might be, but like you could put those in the cake too, and overly complicate. But I like your metaphor. It's just like, look, it's a cake. Do the right ingredients, do the recipe in order, make that thing happen, and then when it comes time to decorate, now you can be the cake boss and you
Yep.
can throw that craziness on there, but not
Yeah,
beforehand.
I think too the it's all of those things, but I think too the biggest part about that cake analogy that I like is that, you know, if you have one layer, if you have a small team, like focus on one layer, one program. If you have, you know, then you stack up. That's why I say layered. But at the end of the day, like whether your cake is, you know, 5 levels high or 1 level high, it's still cake. It's still going to be good. Like focus on making it a good cake, no matter how many people you're feeding, right? Like then that's how you compound success. And like as long as that foundation is strong, your cake's going to be good. Like
Yeah, no, but what's great about this is anyone that like marketing our our dilemma is that we are kind of cursed with this analytical creative mind where we kind of want to, we want to dabble a little bit on both sides, but man, there's certain things you can't be creative in. And usually baking is one of those.
yep,
Now, if you're cooking, if you're, throwing some garlic in that pan and you're sauteing something, like if you throw a handful versus a little less, that's not going to come back to bite you. But if you decide to use 2 eggs instead of one, or God forbid, you double the amount of flour,
yeah.
this is not a good time for creativity because then you you will get there like
Is it the
I think.
Sleeping Beauty cake with the like mop? Is that Sleeping Beauty?
Well, I was thinking like Elmo and Bert had this like gobbity gluck kind of like weird cake thing that they would make. And it's like that's what you're gonna get if you
Yeah.
try to get creative on the foundational stuff. It's like just do that, and then you get crazy later. Yeah, that's smart. So not complicated, but it's layered. And I think the daunting thing is if you look at the whole cake all together, like, I don't know how to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, I think, where people are just like, but throw their hands up. They're like, I can't do this. I can't possibly. And even me, like 6, 7 years into my career, like I said, if you're on LinkedIn, there's something new that somebody is trying and trying to tell you that you're missing out on every day. And I think that that's where that like negative kind of connotation comes back, is just this like, if you're not doing what everybody else is doing, then like you're behind. But I think it's really interesting that, especially in marketing, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, then those like channels become really noisy and then it becomes
Right.
ineffective. And then you
Mm.
have to go find a new channel. So like, instead of just creating really good program after program content and all these things and like really compounding on ourselves, we're literally doing like, look over there, then look over there, then go backwards, then do this, then, oh, go back to that program that you abandoned for this other one. Like, we're seeing diminishing returns because we're all running toward the same things because of the industry and our competitors and our LinkedIn profiles and all those things, instead of just like focusing on ourselves and like,
Right.
what do we need as a company? What skills do we have on our team that are different from somebody else?
So what is the right? You were starting to get to this, and we wanted to dwell on the myth for just a second. What is the solution, or how do you bake that cake?
Yeah. So a little rudimentary, but again, like we're trying to make this as simple as possible.
Yeah.
I have 3 steps. Technically 4 if rinse and repeat at the end is a step. Um, but three real steps. The first one, and what I do every time that I start a new job, or you know, if somebody's coming to me and they're like, "How do I get started in marketing?" I'm like, understand analytics first. Like, make sure you're collecting data somehow, whether it's in GA or HubSpot, or you're manually pulling your LinkedIn engagement into a spreadsheet or whatever it is. Like, whatever channels you're currently using, make sure that you're getting some kind of actionable data out of. And then learn how to read. So I think, again, my first thing that I usually do is like really break down and audit the metrics over the last quarter, over the last year, whatever it is. Just understand what's working and what's
How do you tell me in the next 90 seconds,
not.
how do you learn how to read data?
Yeah. I'm lucky because I started in engineering in college, and so numbers have always been my thing.
Hell yeah.
And then quickly was like, this is not for me. I don't want to be in the library every day. I don't want these people to be my coworkers. I'm very collaborative. I'm I come from a family of engineers too, so it was not an easy like switch. But I switched to advertising because it was way more collaborative. Anyways, all that is, so I'm just inherently like, I understand numbers. Um, it takes practice. I think it takes like, even I to understand your numbers. I look at them every day. I look at them every week. I look at them every month. Like, understand how to slice and dice, I think is important. Also, there are tons of certifications, Google, HubSpot, they all have free certifications that you can take to like know how and what numbers to look at.
Yeah. One of the things I heard you say in there is to look at them. And I know I've done this wrong in the past and I think a lot of marketing can do this wrong. You can collect all the data you want, but if you don't actually look at it, or you collect too much and now you can't look at the stuff you need to, like, you need to actually look at your numbers on a somewhat regular basis, if
Yep.
not daily, right?
Yep.
There's certain things you need to just stay in the loop on. Otherwise, why even collect it?
Well, I think too, like my title is growth. Like, okay,
Yeah.
the easiest way to track growth are the numbers going up, right? Like, and again, I think that some of the fear around like looking at the numbers is like, what if they're low? But like, what is low? Like, what is industry average? Also, if you're a tech company and say you're like, e- even if you're not creating something brand new, you're trying to make a better solution than what currently exists. Like, you have to be honest with where you're starting and like understand. Otherwise, if you're optimizing your program for the way that your competitor is doing it, that has, a marketing team of 50 people, that's not going to help your program.
No.
Like you have to start where you are and be like really realistic about like where you currently sit. The numbers don't matter as long as you can find a way to make them go up.
And I think that there's so much power to you saying that. And I think that when marketers think that way, that's when we get it right. When we're not, so biased to our numbers, like let them speak for themselves and then work to fix them. If they need fixing, figure out but like they're not lying. They may need interpretation, but just, you know, give yourself up to the numbers to be able to then take action and not be all worried about things.
Yep. Yeah. Why would I chase? It's honestly like how I live my life. Like, just be
Yeah.
honest. Just be honest with where you're at currently. That's the only
Yeah.
way to start growing forward,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't
Right.
matter.
Oh,
There's no,
the scale says this, but you know what? I think it's off by 50 pounds. So I
yeah,
think I'm good today. It's like, well, all right. You know,
exactly.
you got to keep doing math every day. Like, what's going on?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So look at those stats. Do you have a favorite metric in your
Oh,
role at growth?
yeah. I'm deep in the Google Analytics. I just own the website and that's all the channels. We're a product-led growth company. So everything starts with the website and ends with the website. And all of the channels are obviously driving people to the website. So that's really my source of truth. My favorite metric is probably time on page. It's not bounce rate. It's not page views. It's not sessions. It's time on page. Do people actually enjoy this content? Are they reading it? Are they clicking to something else to stay on the site? Like that to me is that quality metric. Like I will always pick quality metrics over quantity ones.
You know, I have often been confused by time on page because sometimes I've heard people explain it as like, well, what if they're lost and they can't find anything?
They're gonna leave.
Then they're
That's
gonna
that's
leave.
called that's called a bounce rate. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so if they're confused these days, they're not like, well, I can't find it, but let me spend the next 4 minutes
No,
looking for it. No, they're like, I'm out.
literally. Yeah, for real.
No, that's so good. So good. So time on page. In in these day and age, especially if you know they're going to bounce anyway, so it's almost like, are they every moment they're here, they're getting some kind of value in
Yep.
some way.
Yeah. Yeah. And a little peek or deep dive into like how I think about website content specifically too. Like this is even showing further that like we complicate it so far and we think we know so much. Like I can pull all of these insights and hypotheses like out of the data of like, oh, this person like, there's all these heat maps and this person stayed here really long or whatever. But or we're hoping like if this is the first page they land on, then we really want them to take this path and here's the next path. So like we obviously build websites with user paths in mind, but to be honest, like sometimes we really don't know. So I try to put a path for, every user that could land on that page. Are they ready to buy? Are they somewhere in the consideration middle stage? Are they just here for the first time in awareness? For the awareness person, you give them a content user path of like, if you want to learn more, here's your button. Later down the page, like if you're like, you can literally think of the funnel as like scroll depth too, right? Like awareness is somewhere in the top. Maybe you're giving them more information and they click somewhere else. If they're scrolling down further, they want to learn more. Okay, here's some more consideration. Here's some integrations that we have or our competitors, how we stack up. And then the bottom is like, here's demo, here's sign up, here's pricing information. Like you have to give everybody on every page a user path because we maybe don't know how they're using the website.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So I'm looking at it right now. So it's loopandtie.com.
We are doing a new website. So good luck with the old one. New website launches in July.
In July.
Yeah.
So maybe when this episode launches. So you may be
There we
looking at a
go.
brand new site.
It's beautiful. I'm so excited to get it out there.
What's different from what I'm looking at to what you're like? What were some of the key changes you
Yeah.
made, especially knowing that you just talked about paths and consideration and ready to buy?
Yeah, it was a lot of that in general. Like I feel like our content on our current site is getting lost. there's too many things in the nav. We're confusing people, as to your point earlier. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to leave.
Yeah.
And we picked one main CTA. I think for a long time we were testing, and also like our sales team was heavily dependent on inbound leads, and
Mhm.
we figured out that engine. We've introduced an outbound engine, so like we're not on the hook so much as a marketing team for demos. We're going with that product-led growth.
Got it.
How do we get people to sign up for free, get them in the products? So our whole site will be optimized for that, with that secondary demo CTA in there as well.
So will you still have that? Because just to
Mhm.
describe for people, uh, big orange button, send a gift, and then right next to it, book a demo without a
Right.
button, just in like
Yeah,
the blue
it's
text
it's
or black
similar
text.
to that, but in the top you even see like there's login, sign up, send a gift, book a
Yeah.
demo. Like that's too many.
Yeah. Pricing,
Um,
about how it works,
yeah.
impact,
Yeah,
solutions,
so
collections.
we've
Yeah.
combined some pages, we've pulled some things out of the nav, just to make it really clear, like, what action we want you to take, which is send a gift / sign up for free. Like, technically, those are the same. Um, so we're really pushing, like I said, the website to be a really big driver into the product.
Do you have a bit of like a B2B and B2C split? Is that
Yeah,
what's happening? And
so
how do
fun.
you deal with that? And do you ever feel like you're kind of bipolar in a marketing world?
Yeah, I would say that we sell to businesses, but we are the end user is a consumer, right? Like the business is sending it like everybody's a person. So like I like to call us like B2B company that like wears the B2C hat more often. Also like we function more similarly from a analytics and like strategy standpoint to an e-commerce company. Um, because you're actually like buying a gift collection on the site and like sending it to someone, like, and there's a tracking flow and all of those things. So it's really fun because it's like a combination of all of those things. And my boss, MK, the CMO, is like super like hip on just like why do we label ourselves as anything? Let's just do our own thing. Let's just like make cool things and like make it work. I'm like, yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah. Shout out to MK. Absolute
Yeah,
badass.
the best.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out. Cool. So you're balancing those two aspects, and I clicked on send a gift, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in just a little bit. But just from how long is this redesign taken, and will you be glad in July when it's live?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every website project is kind of, it kind of is like, why are you doing that? But like literally the last 3 companies I've been at, I've taken on a website. It's kind of become my thing. I'm like, it's like a necessary evil, I feel like. But I also really, really enjoy it. And like maybe that makes me weird, but like I love a, Gantt chart and a spreadsheet and like the organization of all that. I also really enjoy the copywriting. I've written the majority of 3 websites in 3 years, and I just like really like that. Um, but we started the engagement with an agency called Innovate Map. They're out of Indianapolis. Shout out Midwest. We're
Shout
doing
out,
a lot of
guys.
shout outs.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
But they've been great. They're like a branding agency with the product marketing arm. So one of the other problems that we were having on our team was that because we had added, new features and new functions and we're going after new industries and things like that, we were having a product marketing and messaging problem of like, and we were doing all of these cool things, but we don't know how to say them and not say all of them in one breath. So it was becoming like our copywriting was like, 7 lists of commas and, we're trying to say everything instead of find the middle, like what are we actually saying? So they helped us. The first part of the engagement was positioning and messaging, and the CEO is involved and the head of sales is involved, and it was just a really great exercise that was like within my first 2 months of starting at Loop, which was just like really, really, really great. Um, they gave us foundational statements and value props, and it was just a really strong way to start off a website project. Then we did a rebrand engagement with them and rebrand, refresh. Like it's definitely different than what currently exists, but it's not a complete departure. Still very light and airy and focused on the, the products in the marketplace and things like that. We just wanted to bring it with some personality. And that's what we did. And I'm really excited for everybody to see it. It's so fun. Um,
So cool.
yeah. And then the website kind of in parallel to the second half of the branding exercise and like actually seeing what that looks like on page. Um, so, and it's the smallest website I've done, but it's also like one where it's like, because, we're not strictly B2B or we're not strictly B2C or any of those things. Like there's no playbook for me to follow. Like a lot of it is a lot of like, okay, on this page, like what, listening to customer calls, talking to the sales team, like what are the questions people have about this feature or all of those things. So we really got to collaborate really heavily across the org, which was really fun too. But yeah, now it's in our hands. We're doing some final tweaks on some spot illustrations and things like that. I've got to do the SEO layer. Um, and then it goes off to a dev agency called Crew, which I've worked with before. And the other thing is we're moving from WordPress to Webflow, which like I'm so excited about. I hate WordPress. Just not a fan. Uh, it's very antiquated. It's really hard for us to spin up pages, all of those things. Um,
So, okay, tell me more.
yeah,
Webflow.
yeah, Webflow is great. The ability to easily spin up landing pages, it's no code, very much like, the thing with the caveat with Webflow is use a developer to set it up for you. Don't try to use a template. Don't try to do it yourself. Super easy once you have the foundation set in place, like a style guide. And, we have 10 different types of block components and things like that. Super easy from there, but I would highly recommend using an agency to get you started in Webflow. But all this to say, like I said, WordPress is very antiquated. Like even the UI of WordPress, I'd go in there and I'm like, oh my God, is this Outlook? Like what year is it? Like, I just don't understand. And again, with WordPress, you have to like use all these builders and plugins and like, there's just more shit to break.
Yeah.
Um, if I
Got to
can
keep those
use,
updated or some hacker
yeah,
somewhere is going to break into your site.
yeah, if I can find a better solution in Webflow, I love, a lot of my friends work there in the community side. And it's just like, they do such a good job of, really taking care of their customers and all of these things. Like a good example of a company that has just really busted out through great marketing and really good customer success. Um, but it's like an all-in-one solution. Like it's just stand up a website, but it has everything in there that I need. So
Super cool. Learn new things every day. It also had me thinking, imagine we travel to the future, and later on we're going to go back in time, but we go in the future 200 years from now and we're looking at the internet and we're like, you guys are still using WordPress?
literally.
you know?
I mean, the thing that people like always bring people to WordPress, I think, is that it's cheap. It's like
Yeah.
it's easy, and people are like, well, Squarespace is just for e-commerce companies. I'm like, no, you would be better off using Squarespace for your SaaS website than WordPress. Like,
Yeah. Wow.
oh man.
So all these things are cooking, all these things are going full speed ahead. What would you say is your biggest challenge right now?
Yeah. My biggest challenge is honestly like time management is not the right word, maybe capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a great segue into, I guess this third step. We skipped the second step. The second step
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
my thing, and we've talked about this a little bit, is find your opportunities and like underscore 3 times your. Um, you read the metrics, you understand where your biggest opportunities are, where your challenges are, sure, but like from a growth perspective, where do you think you can find the most success in the shortest amount of time? Um, Again, that doesn't come from all of the noise on LinkedIn and Twitter. It doesn't come from, oh, our competitor showed up at this event. Are we going to go spend 50 grand to do that? Like you probably shouldn't. If you're a small startup, don't do that. Um, you know, Again, where can you see the most growth? Um, and where do you have skills on your team to actually take those projects on? I think that that's a really key layer, especially on marketing teams. Like again, my experience on purpose, I consider myself a generalist, and like that conversation of like, do we want more specialists? Do we want more generalists? In this time where marketing teams are getting smaller and smaller from these larger organizations, you need more generalists. You have to take on bigger job descriptions and bullet pointed lists. And I actually like the mix of that. Like I enjoy the mix of the work. But the challenge of that is like, how do I focus, right? Like if I
Yeah.
have all these things. So for us, and I'll kind of like relate it into this, like our biggest growth opportunity was organic search, which is honestly why MK came and was like, do you want to come work with me? And I said, tell me more about that. That's my background. Definitely not a technical SEO or anything like that. I could learn a lot from a lot of people still, and I still do. But in terms of like content and on page and creative and things like that, like I really shine there. That's the way that
Yeah.
my brain works. Especially for a tool like Loop and Tie that is so product led focused, we really see a lot of our capture in that paid search space, like creating demand and social and all these other things. But honestly, like it's interesting from a gift, and I've said this before, in a gifting like market like ours, I can't advertise to you the same way I would if I was selling an email automation software. Um, because I don't know when you're going to need a gift platform. I don't know when your gifting occasions are. I don't know when your employees' birthdays are. I have no idea. So like if I'm spending ad dollars to retarget you or like send you ads on LinkedIn, I don't know what there's no
It's
way for
true.
me to control that conversion.
Right.
I have no idea. So we're very careful about where we spend money. Um, in terms of paid advertising, it looks more like event sponsorships with big brands, and we cover the gifts and things like
Yeah.
that. But our biggest avenue was organic search. We were seeing really big, really good results from paid search, even on a small scale. And we know that people are just like, I need a gifting software. Then they're Googling. Um, and the other advantage of Loop and Tie versus some other gifting platforms that I have worked for and have been in the space for the last, 2 years, um, is that we don't require a contract or like a
Mm,
contract value. Like
right.
you're in search and literally your employee's birthday is today. You
Right.
could Google search, I need to send
Totally
a gift
plausible.
to, yeah, and you could do
Totally
it and
plausible.
it would be done in 15 minutes. But like that is such a fun challenge for me inside the search space that I've never had, which is why I say like we do function more from that perspective as an e-commerce company because it's at the point of sale. How do I convert them in 10 minutes with content? Um, so I built out a whole keyword strategy and we're working with a paid consultant to kind of marry those two programs together. That's more focused on branded terms. But when I started at Loop, we really are only ranking for like branded search terms. Loop and tie gifts.
Right.
I want to be ranking for corporate gifting,
Corporate gifting. Yeah.
gifting solutions, gifts for $25, employee gifts, customer gifts, like all of those things. So I've been building out clusters, keyword clusters for those.
Nice.
And then content around that. And then it looks like blog content. It looks like some conversion page content, depending on the keyword. Like if it's a solution or software based keyword, like gifting platform, I want to give them a landing page that is going to sell them versus a blog post with 30 gifts in it. Um, so I
Right.
think again, like I, I, if I have one superpower, it's understanding search intent and figuring out how to move that into most of our marketing. And then again, so the third step,
Yeah.
to get started is focusing on one program. So right now, mine's SEO. I also have the website. So I'm already breaking my own rule of having one thing. But the website is more of a group project. So SEO is definitely me. I think when I'm taking on or, projects are brought to me or whatever it is, the thing that I ask myself is, am I the only one that can solve this or can somebody else help this? Like, yes,
Right.
I know what to do here, But are there issues that this company needs to have solved that only I can do? I should be focused on those things. Not to say that I don't want to collaborate. We actually did a personality test at the beginning of starting this company, which I think is a great like lexicon for you to have with your coworkers. You like do a presentation on what type of personality you have, and like it goes into a spreadsheet so you can see what everybody's is. Mine's collaborator. I really like to work with other people,
Yeah.
which is tough in a remote work environment.
It is.
But we find ways. But my biggest step, advice, whatever, to somebody trying to uncomplicate and get started in is try to focus on one thing. Because going back to the cake analogy, like you build that foundation, like you're so much more set up for success if you build out a really, really strong email marketing program and you start there and go from A to Z, like soup to nut, everything. And then you can have the peace of mind to go work on the next thing while that thing is like chugging along. Like the thing with marketing is that most of the stuff, it's not like sales where you have to hit the phones every day. Most of the stuff, if you set it up right, you can automate, you can create workflows that kind of do that. You only have to check in on your babies like once a week, maybe once a month. Um, you don't really have to keep going back, right? If you do it the right way. And that's the problem with trying to take on 5 things at one time is you're only making so much little progress on these things, and it just doesn't, you never get anywhere constructive.
Yeah, it's like trying to dig a hole in sand at the beach, right? It just constantly just keeps coming back in if you got to focus on one area. Man, there's so much stuff here. I feel like I could talk to you forever, and obviously 4 is rinse and repeat. But I want to. You started talking a little bit about advice, and I had this hypothetical question I'd love to
Mm,
throw at you because you see, I may or may not have a time machine here in New
great.
Hampshire, right?
Amazing. I love that.
So we go back in time, but you come visit, we get some beer, some lobster, we hang out, we do this time machine thing, but it's a particular kind of time machine, and you go back, you get to visit yourself a couple days after graduating from school, right? And you got that degree, and you're like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed out into the wilds of marketing and advertising and all those things. If you can talk to yourself, you get some time to have a chat, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I would say. First and foremost, don't freak out that you don't have a job lined up, because I think that that was a huge thing that I was really anxious about. There were so many people in the program that I was in that had already lined up to work at Yelp or, Leo Burnett or some of these like big, uh, like places in Chicago. I went to school at Illinois at U of I down in Champaign. So, um, it was pretty normal for people to have things lined up. Um,
And that
I,
comparison, right? Looking at other people and where do I
yeah,
stack? Yeah.
yeah. And I did. So like, I guess that inherently like that is one of them is like, don't worry about anybody else. I think like, I learned very early on, in my career that it's a career. Uh, it's not this like, it's not like school, right? There's no curriculum that says if you read this book and you take, you read the book and you'll get an A on the test because you read the book. Then if you get an A, then you get placed into these advanced classes. And then if you do that, then you get to the college that you want to go to. Like there's there's structure there. Career is not really like that, especially in the way that I have taken my career of like on paper, I'm certainly like what you would consider a job hopper.
Hmm.
I've had 5 jobs, 4 jobs in 4 years or whatever. Like freaks my mom out. My mom's been at the same company for 35 years. But all that to say, like, I think my biggest piece of advice is like, don't don't be afraid to listen to yourself and your gut. I think unfortunately, especially during like these kinds of, this time, like so many of my friends, I'm not getting a raise this year or all of these things. And I think so much is on us to raise our hand and say, well, of course they're not going to give you a raise. You can keep doing the job that you're doing for the same amount of money. Like it's your career. And I think there's a
Yeah.
balance of like not being selfish, but understanding like I care a lot too, and I think that that's a huge a lot of marketers do, because it's inherently creative work, and it's like, we're building, we're creating. How can I not be attached to that?
Yeah.
Um, but I've stayed too long at places, and then eventually I get laid off or
Yeah,
whatever
right.
it is, right? Like, also, like, layoffs are not detrimental. It actually, like, really kickstarted what I find to be, like, the best parts of my career so far, and getting different experience and all those things. There's always something to learn. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons in there, but I think the main one is just like, it's your career, it's your life. Nobody's telling you what you should and shouldn't do. And there's ample opportunity out there to like actually do what you want. Like, go find it for yourself, right? Like, sitting in engineering class, I certainly didn't think that I would be leading a startup's growth, but like, I love it. Here I am. It's great.
Hell yeah. So good. Talk to me about loop and tie for marketers out there. How does this tie in? How can
Yeah.
we leverage this?
Yeah. So I don't, if you're fairly familiar with like the gifting space, and it definitely is one that has popped up in the MarTech space, I would say like definitely with remote work, like all of the gifting platforms saw a huge boom in 2020, because it was connection, right? It's all about like, how do we stay connected to our employees, our customers, our partners, all of those things. Um, and gifting was an easy way to do that, and finding, a gifting platform. Like, traditional gifting is a lot of spreadsheets, and right, you have to get everybody's address, and did this person move? And then somebody has to like buy all the gifts, and then God forbid you're remote, so all that shit gets shipped to your house, and then somebody's packing all of it. Like, just in general, swag and gifting and all, like, it's very antiquated. There's a lot of logistics. Um, which is why honestly companies don't do it, because they're like, we don't have the time, we don't have the money. And then their employees start to, employees, customers, whoever, like, it's just a nice touch point. It's like a thank you so much. It's a thank you. It's gratitude that you're showing. At least that's what we really believe at Loop and Tie. What I saw in the gifting space over the last couple years is it moved more toward that like pre-sale motion. Book meetings, send gifts to book meetings, and we'll send you a gift card if you take a meeting with us. Like, I think that that's a means to an end, and I think that that's like an interesting cycle. We don't focus on that here at Loop. We're much more focused on the intention behind your gift and the gratitude piece of it, and like the connection of what it means to give somebody a gift. Um, so
That's
and
huge, right? Connection. I see that with podcasting too, right? You're trying to create a connection. You could easily turn the connection of a gift into like some sort of bribe to like,
totally
I really don't need your software. I really don't want to talk to you, but thanks for the Patagonia hat. I
right.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Or, hey, let me get in the podcast. It's not really about you. I don't really care what you have to say, but let me tell you quickly about what my app can do so you
Right.
can buy it.
Trust
It's like
me.
you can
Yeah.
always almost any marketing channel you can make it from such a great opportunity for connection into just something just gross and nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other piece that Loop and Tide does so differently from the other gifting platforms that are, in the space is we're super duper focused on sustainability and like how we fit into that. Not necessarily like we want the customer to like care about sustainability, but not feel like they're taking that on. Through gifting with Loop and Tie, we're taking. We sequester 2 times the carbon that's emitted on every delivery. Planting trees, we're removing ocean-bound plastic. There's a gift it forward. If you don't want a gift, you can donate to charity instead. Like, there's so many things. Also, Loop and Tie is really focused on most of the products in the marketplace are small and local businesses, minority-owned businesses. Um, Societal and economic sustainability is something that we have to think about too. I think it's something that definitely drew me to Loop and Tie was that feel like the tech space so far as into my experience has been like, what is this doing for the world? Like,
Yeah,
besides
right.
just making my boss more money and their boss more money and like the CEO really rich, like what is it actually doing for like the planet and the the space that we occupy and all of these things. So
Right.
it's really nice to have that connection to real life. So there's all of those things. But my biggest thing about Loop and Tie versus other gifting platforms is the gift choice aspect. So instead of me picking, like you said, a Patagonia hat and sending it to you and hoping that you like it, I would pick a price point and then I would send you basically a shopping experience and you would get to pick your own gift.
Is that the collections?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we
that's
call
cool.
gift collections. It's super curated. Our buying and merchandising team does a great job of curating really cool brands. Again, small businesses. Some things in there you've definitely heard of before, like Crosley, like the speaker company and things like that. But it's a shopping experience that like I wouldn't necessarily buy myself the cutting boards behind me because, I just don't know that I have cutting boards. Those ones are handmade and they're really nice. And again, it's not something I would buy for myself, but somebody gifted me a collection. And I was like, wow, I really had my eye on something like this. Like, this is perfect. It's like
That's
a
great.
treat for yourself. And then the giftee has an opportunity to say thank you to the gifter. So you can see, like, if you sent me a gift, like, you can see what I picked. It has that connection. If you're like, oh, you really like a charcuterie board, like, that's amazing, like, whatever.
That's
It's
cool.
just an added layer of connection that I think is really cool. And you can start to understand more about your customers and employees through that. Yeah, also, like, just very happy to be at a company now. Like, I worked at G2 where we're doing software reviews. I worked at a company called Big Time where they were building budget allocation and resource allocation for like engineers and anybody that had billable time. Great products. I'm not, it's boring. I'm just not
Hmm.
interested in that.
Yeah.
Which brought me to Postal, which I was like, this is so fun. We actually have physical products to show and it's not just screenshots in our marketing. And it's real. And gifting is great. I think it's really fun. I think it's something that like you're expressing a thank you or a congratulations, or it's just, who wouldn't want to be like marketing more of that,
Yeah. And in a super, super growingly virtual world, it like reconnects to the physical. And there's just
Yeah,
something about, we used to get, well, I used to remember getting like a card in the mail from my grandmother, and then people would talk about how they only get junk mail. Now
yeah,
we're kind of like excited. Wait, there's like a physical piece of paper or
yep.
there's a box with my name on it. Like, let's go. That
I know,
sounds
it's great.
fantastic.
I know it's not me buying Amazon packages for
Yeah,
myself.
it's not my own Amazon purchase. It's like a surprise off the shelf. Well, this is so cool. Where can people connect with you? What kind of social platforms? What kind of URLs? All that.
Yeah, LinkedIn, first and last name, Bridget Poetker, and Twitter. My handle is a little bit more confusing. It's Bridget Poetker, but the K-E-R is actually K-U-R-R, like Cardi B. I just kept it.
Nice, nice. We will link to that. So if people are currently trying to figure out how to do that,
Amazing, thank you.
just click. Just literally
It's a
click.
good reminder for me to change it.
Right.
Yeah, yep. Those are the
Well, do you
two
have any
that I'm.
underscores in there? Because that's like the
No,
cardinal sin. Okay.
nope.
All right. No underscores.
Nope. I've honestly, with the Twitter debacle in the recent year, I've taken more of my tweets to LinkedIn. So
Oh, cool.
maybe you're not getting as spicy, but it's pretty spicy on LinkedIn for
Hell yeah.
LinkedIn.
And even with Twitter, it's a whole nother convo, but you kind of have to like re-find people that are still on there because, oh, I got 5,000 followers, but like half of them aren't using it anymore. So, but like
Yeah.
who is? And it's crazy. It's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Um, Well, hey, like, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been absolutely fantastic. I literally, like, time even ran away from me because I was just so into, like, it doesn't have to be complicated. The metaphor. Now I feel like I got to eat cake,
I know.
We got to
Isn't
go
that
do some
great?
layers. So I really appreciate you coming on here and just schooling us on this stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Casey. It was a good combo.
Hell yeah. And for those listening, if you learned something, I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes front and back, and I like run out of space in the margins. So share this with someone, one person, 9 people, 3,000 people. LinkedIn's a good place to do that. and we'll just hop in the comments. We'll have a little comment battle. We'll just get in there and start engaging, but share your takeaway from this, not just what you heard, but like what it means to you, what kind of action you're going to take from it. That's really how other people can learn from this. And with that, Bridget, you are the best. You're the best. More walks down by the lake because it clearly is working. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.
All right, everyone. This has been another crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.